Hello, my name is Brian. Today I want to talk about learning English. English changed my life. It helped me make friends, dream bigger, and open new doors. When I started, I was scared. I didn't know many words, and my accent was different. But I didn't stop. Little by little, I learned, just like a baby learning to walk. I fell many times, but I got up. Maybe you feel shy or afraid to speak. Maybe you worry about mistakes. But don't be afraid. Mistakes help us learn. If we don't try, we can't get better. Learning to speak English is like learning to swim. At first, it feels hard, but with practice, it gets easier. Listen to English. The more you listen, the more you learn. You can practice speaking with friends or even by yourself. I used to talk to myself in English. It may feel strange, but it helps. You don't need to know big words. Simple words are good enough. Speak what you want to say. People will understand you, and over time, you'll learn more words. When I was learning, I worried, what if people laugh at me? But then I realized something. If I didn't speak, I would never get better. So I kept talking, and most people were kind. If you feel nervous, that's okay. Take a deep breath and smile. The more you speak, the easier it becomes. Another tip is to read out loud. This helps you get better. When you read, you practice speaking too. Also, don't be afraid to ask for help. If you don't know how to say something, ask someone. Asking helps you learn. Always believe in yourself. If you think, I can do this, you will improve. Learning English is like climbing a mountain. You take one small step at a time and soon you'll reach the top. Start today. Speak English as much as you can. Don't worry about mistakes. Keep trying, and one day you will say, I did it. Learning English is like planting a tree. It grows slowly, but it becomes strong. You will be proud of yourself for not giving up. Remember, the most important thing is to never stop trying. Keep going and you'll get better. I remember when I first spoke in English. My heart was racing, I was scared, but I tried anyway, and guess what? I felt proud of myself for trying. Speaking English isn't about being perfect, it's about being brave. If you don't speak, your English will stay weak. But the more you speak, the stronger you get. When I started, I watched English movies. At first, I didn't understand much, but I kept watching and learning. It helped me learn words, actions, and feelings. Language isn't just about words. It's about how you connect with others. Smile when you're happy. Frown when you're confused. Show your feelings when you speak. Sometimes you might feel stuck, but don't give up. Learning is like climbing a hill. Sometimes it's fast and sometimes it's slow, but you are always moving forward. Set small goals. Focus on learning one thing at a time, like new words or pronunciation. Celebrate every little progress. Keeping a journal in English helps too. Write about your day. It will help you think in English. You can also practice with a friend. It's fun, and you learn together. Don't be afraid to speak to native English speakers. They understand you are learning. If you make a mistake, it's okay. They may correct you, and that helps you learn. There will be hard days, but don't give up. You are stronger than you think. The first step is to try. Learning English opens many doors. You can travel, meet people, and learn new things. English connects us. So when you feel tired, remember why you started. Think about the future when you can speak English with confidence. Learning is hard, but you're doing a great job. If you make a mistake, don't be hard on yourself. Say, I'm learning and I'm getting better. Soon, you will surprise yourself. You'll understand more, and your English will get stronger. One day, I realized that English wasn't just about words. It was about connecting with people. I spoke to a tourist, and they smiled when they understood me. That made me proud. Learning English has taught me patience. Every word, every sentence is a small victory. Remember, every time you speak, you are winning. Keep practicing every day. Talk to yourself, describe things, and use English in your life. It will help you. You don't need to know every word. Simple words are enough. What matters is that you can share your thoughts, celebrate every success, no matter how small. Did you speak in English today? That's great. Did you learn a new word? Celebrate it. When you make a mistake, don't feel bad. Celebrate it. Mistakes mean you are learning. Keep going, and one day you will look back and be proud of how far you've come. I remember when I first started learning English. It was hard. I didn't understand everything. I didn't know how to speak well, but I kept trying. Little by little, I started to understand more. I made many mistakes, but each mistake taught me something new. At first, I was afraid to speak. I thought people would laugh at me. I thought my accent was wrong. I didn't know if people would understand me. But then I realized something. It's okay to make mistakes. Making mistakes is part of learning. If you don't try, you can't get better. The first time I spoke to someone in English, my hands were shaking and my heart was racing. I didn't know if I could do it, but I took a deep breath and said something. I remember the feeling when the other person smiled and understood me. It made me feel proud. It wasn't easy. Sometimes I felt tired. Sometimes I felt like giving up. But every time I wanted to stop, I remembered my goal. I wanted to speak English. I wanted to learn, and that kept me going. I started practicing every day. I didn't wait for a special class. I practiced when I could. I would speak to myself in English. I would talk about what I saw, what I did, and what I was thinking. It felt funny at first, but it helped. I got better at speaking. I got more comfortable with English. Another thing I did was listen to English. I watched movies in English. At first it was hard. I didn't understand everything, but slowly I started to catch words and phrases. I learned how people spoke. I learned how they used their voices, their faces, and their hands. Listening helped me speak better. I could hear how words were pronounced. I learned new words and how to use them. It was like learning a song. The more you hear it, the easier it becomes to sing. I also tried reading in English. At first, it was slow. I didn't know many words, but I kept reading. Sometimes I would look up words I didn't know. I learned more and more every day. Learning English is not always easy. Sometimes you might feel like you're not making progress. But I want you to remember something. Every small step counts. Every time you practice, you get better. Even if it feels slow, you are moving forward. When I was learning, I used to get frustrated. I wanted to speak perfectly right away, but I learned that learning takes time. There is no rush. It's okay if you make mistakes. It's okay if you don't understand everything right away. What matters is that you keep going. One of the best things you can do is practice every day. It doesn't have to be for a long time. Even 10 or 15 minutes a day can help. The more you practice, the easier it gets. I used to set small goals for myself. For example, I would focus on learning 5 new words each day. I would practice saying them out loud and using them in sentences. Small goals like this are easier to achieve, and they help you feel proud of your progress. Sometimes I felt stuck. I thought I wasn't improving, but then I would look back and see how far I had come. I could speak better than before. I could understand more than before. That realization kept me going. Another thing I did was celebrate my progress. When I learned a new word, I felt happy. When I had a conversation in English, I felt proud. Every little step is important. Don't wait for big moments to celebrate. Celebrate the small steps too. When I spoke to people in English, I was afraid of making mistakes. But I learned something important. People don't mind mistakes. They understand that I am learning. Most people want to help. They won't laugh at you. They will support you. Over time, I became more confident. I stopped worrying about mistakes. I focused on what I wanted to say. I focused on expressing myself. The more I spoke, the better I became. The more I practiced, the easier it got. I also learned that it's important to speak every day. Even if you don't have someone to speak to yourself. Talk about your day, your thoughts, or your plans. The more you speak, the easier it becomes. The more you practice, the better your English gets. Sometimes I would speak with my friends in English. We would practice together. At first it was hard, but over time it became easier. We made mistakes, but that was okay. We learned from each other. I also found that writing in English helped me. I would write small things like what I did during the day. Writing helped me think in English. It also helped me remember new words. Every time I wrote, I got better. I remember when I had my first real conversation in English. It was with a stranger. I was nervous. I didn't know if I could speak well, but I tried. And guess what? The person understood me. They smiled and helped me when I made a mistake. It felt so good. After that, I was less afraid to speak. I knew that even if I made a mistake, it was okay. Mistakes help you grow. They help you get better. One thing I always tell myself is, don't give up. No matter how hard it gets, keep going. Every time you speak, you get better. Every time you practice, you improve. The journey to learn English is not easy, but it is worth it. Each step you take brings you closer to your goal. If you keep trying, you will speak English one day. Don't be afraid. Keep going. You are learning, and you are getting better. Sometimes learning English feels like climbing a very high mountain. You may feel tired or think, I can't do this. But I want you to remember that every step you take matters. Even if it's a small step, you are moving closer to your goal. When I started learning English, I didn't know how to stay motivated. There were days when I wanted to quit. I felt like I wasn't improving, and it was frustrating. But then I thought about why I wanted to learn English. I remembered my dreams, my goals, and all the opportunities English could bring me. One thing that helped me was making English fun. I stopped thinking of it as something I had to do and started thinking of it as something I wanted to do. I played games in English, listened to English songs, and sang along. I watched funny videos, read stories, and even wrote my own little stories. I also found ways to connect English to my life. For example, I started labeling things in my house in English. Every time I looked at the label, I said the word out loud. This helped me learn new words and remember them. Another thing I did was set realistic goals. I didn't try to learn everything at once. I focused on one thing at a time. For example, I would spend a week learning how to talk about food or another week learning how to introduce myself. Breaking it into smaller parts made it easier and less overwhelming. Practicing with friends helped me too. We encouraged each other, corrected each other's mistakes, and celebrated our progress together. If you have friends who are also learning English, practice with them. If not, you can join online groups or communities where people are learning English. It's a great way to meet new people and improve your skills. Another way I stayed motivated was by imagining my future self. I imagined speaking English confidently, traveling to new places, meeting people from different cultures, and sharing my thoughts without hesitation. This vision gave me the strength to keep going, even on hard days. I learned to be patient with myself. Learning a language takes time, and it's okay to go slow. Some days you might feel like you're not making progress. But that's not true. Every word you learn, every sentence you speak, and every mistake you make helps you grow. Sometimes I would go back and listen to recordings of myself speaking English from weeks or months earlier. I could hear how much I had improved. That made me feel proud and gave me the energy to keep practicing. It's also important to take breaks when you feel tired. Resting is part of learning. If you push yourself too hard, you might feel frustrated or burned out. Take a walk, listen to music, or do something you enjoy. Then come back to English with a fresh mind. One of the best things you can do is celebrate your progress. No matter how small it seems, every step is a victory. Did you learn a new word today? Celebrate it. Did you speak a sentence in English? That's amazing. Don't compare yourself to others. Everyone learns at their own pace. Focus on your own journey. Be proud of how far you've come and how much you've learned. Finally, remember that learning English is not just about speaking perfectly. It's about connecting with people, sharing ideas, and opening yourself to new experiences. Every time you speak English, you are building a bridge to a bigger world. So, if you ever feel like giving up, remember why you started. Think about the opportunities waiting for you and the confidence you will feel when you achieve your goals. Keep going, step by step, and one day you will look back and be amazed at how far you've come. Learning English is a journey. It takes time, and sometimes it feels slow, but every small step you take makes you better. The more you practice, the easier it gets. I remember feeling like I would never speak well, but today I can have conversations in English, and I'm proud of that. At first, I didn't understand much. When people spoke to me in English, I couldn't catch all the words, but I didn't give up. I kept listening. I watched movies, listened to music, and paid attention to how people spoke. Little by little, I started to understand more. Even if I didn't understand every word, I learned something new every day. One of the things I found helpful was to repeat what I heard. If I didn't understand a word, I would try to repeat the sentence. I would say it out loud. This helped me get better at pronunciation and speaking. It helped me feel more comfortable. Another thing that helped me was using English in my daily life. I didn't wait until I was in an English class to practice. I spoke in English whenever I could. I would describe things I saw or talk about what I was doing. Even if no one was around, I would talk to myself in English. This made me feel more confident. I also practiced speaking with my friends. I found people who wanted to practice English too. We would meet and speak only in English. At first it was hard. We made many mistakes, but it didn't matter. We laughed at our mistakes and we learned together. This made it fun and less scary. When I made a mistake, I didn't feel bad about it. I knew that mistakes were part of the learning process. Everyone makes mistakes, even native speakers. What matters is that we keep trying. I learned that when you make a mistake, it's just a chance to get better. I would ask my friends, "How do I say this better?" And they would help me. Asking for help is important. Sometimes I felt frustrated. I felt like I wasn't improving, but then I would think about how much I had learned. I remembered the first time I tried to speak English. I was nervous, and I didn't know many words, but now I could say so much more. Progress happens little by little. One thing that helped me a lot was setting small goals. I didn't try to learn everything at once. I started with small goals like learning 5 new words every day or practicing speaking for 10 minutes. Small goals helped me stay focused. They kept me motivated. When I reached a goal, I felt proud, and I wanted to keep going. I also started reading in English. At first, I picked simple books. The stories were easy to understand and the words were not too hard. I would read for just a few minutes each day. The more I read, the more I learned. I started to notice new words and phrases. I began to understand how sentences were put together. Reading in English helped me improve my vocabulary and my grammar. Another thing that helped me was watching TV shows or movies in English. I didn't always understand everything, but I kept watching. I would listen closely to how people spoke and how they used words. Over time, I started to understand more. Watching shows also helped me learn how people use English in real life. It wasn't just about reading or studying words. It was about understanding how people communicate. If I didn't understand something, I would pause the video and look up the word. Sometimes I would watch the same scene again to make sure I understood. This helped me learn new words and phrases. It also helped me get better at listening. Speaking English was the hardest part for me. I was afraid to make mistakes, but then I realized that the more I spoke, the better I got. I would speak even if I wasn't sure I was saying everything perfectly. I found that people were kind and patient. They understood I was learning, and they would help me if I made a mistake. This made me feel more comfortable. One of the best things I did was practice with people who were also learning English. We would talk together and help each other. We were all in the same boat. We made mistakes, but we learned from each other. It made learning more fun. It made me feel less alone. I also found that it helped to stay positive. Sometimes it felt like I wasn't making progress. But I had to remind myself that learning a language takes time. It's okay if it's slow. What matters is that I keep going. Even if I only learned one new word or understood one sentence, that was progress. It helped to celebrate the small victories. Another way to practice was by writing in English. At first, I started with short sentences. I would write about my day or what I wanted to do. Little by little, my writing improved. Writing helped me remember words, and it helped me learn how to use them in sentences. I also kept a journal in English. I would write a few sentences every day. It helped me practice my writing and my vocabulary. Sometimes I didn't know how to say something, but I would try anyway. I learned by doing this. The more I wrote, the easier it became. Learning English is not always easy. Some days are harder than others. But remember that every time you practice, you are getting better. Every mistake is a chance to learn. Every word you learn brings you closer to your goal. So keep practicing. Keep listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. The more you try, the better your English will become. And one day, you will look back and see how far you've come. Keep going, and you will reach your goal.